Hi, unruly family. This is my recap for the anime Bucchigiri. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins as some weak and cowardly nerd named Tomoshibi practices talking to girls in a mirror.
Tomoshibi Arajin です。趣味はバズらしくフリーなんで、よろしくで。
Elsewhere, some guys wake up in a shrine after a long night of drinking, but become terrified when something begins to shake. One of these losers thinks it might be the legend of what they call a honky person being sealed there, but they don't stick around to find out when they hear a growling noise. A honkai person is defined as one who finds a heart that doesn't flee. In the age of samurai, fighters who threw away their swords and put down their helmets emerged. These fighters fought to reach the top with nothing but their honkai, so they are known as honkai people. Tomoshibi arrives on his first day at school, where he is told that the Minado Kai and Shiguma squad compete against each other for the top spot. This is clearly demonstrated outside as two students fight it out. It's clear that Tomoshibi couldn't be less interested in all the fighting, and he only wants to know if there are any cuties in his class. The instructor inappropriately assures him that there are, but Tomoshibi quickly finds out that his class is actually filled with some dangerous-looking guys. Everyone in this dirty, messed-up classroom is pretty disinterested in Tomoshibi when he introduces himself. But Tomoshibi is amazed and sees that there is one girl that he likes. She is so perfect to him that he compares her to a gentle quail egg in the chaos of a bowl of stir-fry. This girl quickly introduces herself, and Mahoro and Tomoshibi instantly fall in love with her. Outside, the guy named Matakara beats up his opponent and wins the fight. When class finally ends, Mahoro surprisingly asks Tomoshibi if he would like to walk home together. Our boy, of course, accepts without hesitation. So Mahoro tells him that she will wait by the gate. Tomoshibi has prepared his entire life for this very moment, so he rushes off in the manliest way possible. Some green-headed dude trips him, and his buddy joins in to intimidate Tomoshibi. Tomoshibi uses the oldest chick in the book to get away, but he quickly runs into the stone wall, which is Matakara. The other bullies close in on him, so Tomoshibi realizes that he's about to get beat up. Just then, Matakara, surprisingly, already knows Tomoshibi's name, but Tomoshibi doesn't recognize him. Tomoshibi thinks really hard about his name, even though his stomach is beginning to hurt, and eventually remembers that they were close friends when they were younger. Tomoshibi seemed to be like an older brother to Matakara, and Matakara couldn't be happier to see him after 5 years. Matakara tells his goons that Tomoshibi is his old buddy, and they used to train together to become Hankai people. He explains that Tomoshibi was always really strong, but the goons don't see it. Matakara wants him to hang out with them, but Tomoshibi doesn't seem to share the enthusiasm for meeting again and leaves. Tomoshibi thinks that he has some seriously bad luck for seeing Matakara again. He rushes off to meet with his future wife, but unfortunately, she is long gone. The dweebs from early read at the restaurant Tomoshibi lives in, and he tells his nosy mom that he met her nice quail egg. Tomoshibi takes over the kitchen for a while and overhears the guys talking about what might have been sealed in the shrine. At the Shiguma base, the guy that Matakara beat up apologizes to his squad's leader for losing. This guy explains that Matakara was surprisingly a nice guy, and the leader makes a joke about him falling in love. The leader quickly stops all the laughing with the kick to this guy's face, and this guy with a bunch of piercings just continues to enjoy his meal. At night, Tomoshibi thinks about his past with Matakara and how he once just watched his old friend get bullied. The next day, the poor teacher tries to teach this group of hoodlums, and Tomoshibi wonders where his crush is at lunch. He prepares to eat his heartfelt meal and is shocked to find Mahoro there. Mahoro explains that she is skipping class, and Tomoshibi apologizes for not meeting with her the day before. She doesn't care at all and awkwardly asks if they could become friends. Of course, Tomoshibi jumps at the opportunity, and this really forward girl asks him to hang out on Saturday. Matakara calls out to him from below, and his green-headed buddy wonders if Tomoshibi is really that strong. Matakara explains that Tomoshibi is strong, brave, and cool, and he really admires him. This green dude is clearly jealous and doesn't understand at all. Goldilocks notices that Tomoshibi is talking to Mahoro, so he determines that he needs to urgently tell Matakara about this, but Greenhead stops him. He thinks things would be more interesting this way, and they should just let their school's tradition play out. At some shop, Tomoshibi gets excited to have picked out the perfect stone to carve, but the bully surprisingly arrives and takes him to an arcade. Greenhead wants them to get along from now on, but Tomoshibi's stomach begins to hurt again. Broccoli Hair sees that trouble has arrived, so he gets his ponytailed friend out of there. Tomoshibi wins his game, But some dudes in white notice that Tomoshibi is part of the Minato or Shiguma gangs. Tomoshibi points out that he would never take part in stuff like that, but that proves to be the wrong answer. These guys can't believe that he would just walk in the arcade so comfortably without being part of a gang and point out to him that this is their turf. Tomoshibi tries to get away, but the guys stop him as he is their 100 catch. Tomoshibi does manage to get away, albeit without most of his clothes, but the guys continue to chase him as they want to rob him of everything. His so-called new friends have a good laugh, and Greenhead realizes that he was right and that Tomoshibi isn't tough at all. With few places to run, Tomoshibi finds himself taking shelter inside the shrine. As the bullies try to break in, Tomoshibi knocks over one of the sealed boxes, and a mysterious gun pops out. The bullies eventually barge in, so Tomoshibi takes the gun to threaten them with. These guys laugh at the old, broken-down gun and approach him anyway. Tomoshibi fires the mysterious gun, but it ricochets all over the place, and the bullet just ends up hitting him in the head. The bullies think he is a goner, so they get out of there, but Tomoshibi eventually wakes up. The bullet seems to be lodged in his head, and a strange mist comes out of it. Just then, a small tornado forms and a magical being called a Majin appears before Tomoshibi. This Majin's name is Senya, and he offers to grant Tomoshibi a wish. Tomoshibi is too terrified to even say a single word, so Senya quickly determines that he is some kind of wimp. Senya wonders if this is just another miss, but asks Tomoshibi again for his wish. Tomoshibi finally begins to understand what's happening, and Senya assumes that the boy will want wealth, honor, or power. Tomoshibi hardly needs any time to think about it, and instantly wishes to develop a plot with a girl for the first time. Senya surprisingly understands why a young boy like him would wish for this and offers to merge with Tomoshibi in order to make it happen. Tomoshibi leaves because he doesn't want to merge with anything, and quickly learns that no one else can see Senya. Back to the goons. They tell Matakara about Tomoshibi's pathetic display of his cowardice. Matakara knocks out a few pull-ups while he explains that Tomoshibi's a gentle guy and he hates fighting. Back at Tomoshibi's house, Senya complains about the stupid plot of some soap opera. Tomoshibi does some research and wonders if Senya could just be his imagination. Sometime later, Tomoshibi carves the stone he bought to make it into a gift for Mahoro. Senya offers some advice on giving a better gift, but Tomoshibi explains that this stone will protect her for eternity. It's a love forever stone, and it will be the key to her heart. But Senya has no clue what this delusional kid is talking about. On Saturday, Tomoshibi tries to figure out why the bullet is still stuck in his head, but his caretaker doesn't seem to care about that at all and just wants to know if he's going on a date. Tomoshibi gets real embarrassed, but this crazy lady just tells him to focus on getting as far as he can with the girl. As Tomoshibi waits for Mahoro, he tells Senya not to talk to him, as his entire life is on the line. Mahoro arrives and wonders who he was talking to, but Tomoshibi explains that he was just mumbling to himself. The two quietly enjoy some ice cream, but Senya reminds our boy to give her this stone thing. Tomoshibi strangely tells him to shut up, so he has to tell Mahoro that it was nothing. Mahoro somehow isn't put off by Tomoshibi's strange behavior, and is instead really glad that he came to the school. Senya thinks this is the perfect opportunity for our boy to make his move, since if he doesn't do it now, he never will. Senya demands that he not chicken out, so Tomoshibi proclaims that he will show Senya how it's done. Mahoro hears some pretty strange noises coming from Tomoshibi, and it's because his stomach is going out of control. Tomoshibi tries to tell her it's nothing, even though he's clearly getting sick, and runs off to handle business. Once Tomoshibi finally finishes up, he reveals to Senya that this happens to him every single time. Tomoshibi shamefully returns to Mahoro, but she is still somehow into Tomoshibi and is just glad that he came back in time. Tomoshibi finally finds the courage to give her the stone he made, and she stares at how her name is carved fully. Tomoshibi slowly declares how much he likes her, but he is interrupted by a gang. Their leader strolls up on some kind of machine, and he has such bad posture that he can't even see where he is going. He has his right-hand man to tell him when to stop, and he is so lazy that he must be kept from falling. This guy manages to talk all on his own and reveals that he is the leader of the Shikuma squad named Marito. Tomoshibi tries to get out of there with Mahoro as quickly as possible, but Marito's vein pops out of his head. Mahoro knows this is this and shockingly asks Tomoshibi to fight for her. Marito has gotten very serious, however, and is furious at Tomoshibi because he dared to put his hands on his little sister. Up above, Greenhead has called Matakara to meet with him and reveals that Tomoshibi is in big trouble. He wonders if Tomoshibi will make it out alive, and Matakara rushes off angrily to help his old friend. Down below, Tomoshibi takes a beating. Marito wants a fight, but Tomoshibi has already determined that his life will now end as this guy is going to finish him. Marito continues to be down on him and demands that Tomoshibi get up. Something is seriously wrong with Mahoro, as she admires her cool brother for losing his cool. Senya watches this beatdown and listens as the gang points out that this will be Marito's 35th victim. Senya is disappointed to not have found what he was looking for once again. This is because even if he merged with Tomoshibi, he is certain that he would never be able to meet a certain person. Senya begins to leave, but is shocked when Tomoshibi wonders if everyone really thinks that he's just going to let his life end this way. Tomoshibi finally shows some determination to live. Just as Marito is about to land a devastating blow, Senya becomes extremely excited and demands that Tomoshibi know what it is that he truly wishes for. Tomoshibi prepares to say what he wants, and we see that Matakara is rushing to him. Tomoshibi finally gets up and, surprisingly, still wishes that he develop a plot with a girl for the first time. However, this time Tomoshibi's body erupts with power, and Senya announces Bucchigiri. Tomoshibi shockingly stops Marito's kick, and as he prepares a counterattack, it becomes clear that he has merged with Senya. Tomoshibi's bicep becomes so huge that it bursts from his shirt, and he lands a devastating punch on Marito. Tomoshibi absolutely destroys Marito just in time for Matakara to see, and Matakara thinks Tomoshibi looks just like a Hankai person. Tomoshibi has no clue what just happened, and the bargain basement genie is furious. Tomoshibi keeps wishing to develop plot. Tomoshibi was just being honest with his wish, but Senya points out that he's supposed to be wishing to get stronger. Their argument is broken up by Marito, who sends Tomoshibi flying into a lake. Matakara bumps into some guy named Jabashiri while rushing to Tomoshibi, and this Jabashiri guy acts like Matakara just became his worst enemy because of it. The crowd breaks up when they hear sirens, and Marito stares at the imprint on his stomach left behind by Tomoshibi's insanely powerful punch. This guy seems to be angry, but in reality, he just proclaims that he's going to get Tomoshibi into the Shiguma gang. Afterwards, Tomoshibi wakes up from a nightmare, and Matakara praises him for the amazing punch he landed on Marito. Tomoshibi's brain eventually catches up with everything, and he just wants to know where Mahoro went. Matakara assumed she went home, and Tomoshibi determined that beating her brother must have been a bad idea. Broccoli Head spots a Shiguma member spying on them from outside and chases after him. Matakara shows Tomoshibi the best friend stone Tomoshibi gave him a long time ago. Tomoshibi had told him that whenever he held it, it would make him stronger. Matakara doubts Tomoshibi still has his, but our boys weren't even listening. Matakara stops him from leaving and wonders if Tomoshibi started avoiding him because he wasn't strong enough. Tomoshibi says that it was so long ago that he doesn't even remember and just leaves. Senya appears to want to fight everyone and tells Tomoshibi not to be sad, since even though he lost today, he can still win tomorrow. Tomoshibi is quick to correct him by saying that he actually won against Marito, but Senya doesn't see it that way. Senya overhears some guys talking about a fight that's going on, and our fight-hungry genie drags Tomoshibi to go see it. They're too late when they arrive, and Greenhead wonders what Tomoshibi's doing there. This dude accidentally touches the bullet lodged in Tomoshibi's head, and he's shot by Senya. At home, Tomoshibi thinks about how, in that one split second, he felt a ton of power surge through his body. It was like he was an entirely different person, and he wonders what Senya even is. Senya explains that he is a true Honkai person, or at the very least the closest a man can get. The unimpressed Tomoshibi points out that Honkai people are just legends, even though there's a literal genie talking to him right now. And Senya points out that once they merged, Tomoshibi was able to throw a massive punch. However, he could only manage to throw one punch because they were only partially merged. Senya notices a mark on Tomoshibi's back, but doesn't say anything about it. Instead, he just informs Tomoshibi that he won't get any stronger unless they are one in body and soul. Senya wants them to be practically joined at the hip, but just the thought of that makes Tomoshibi want to puke. Senya points out the need for a man to merge, and our boy Tomoshibi knows that feeling all too well. At the Shiguma base, the guy named Jabashiri arrives to speak with their leader, Marito. The first-year student is told that he's way out of his league, but Marito wants to hear what the kid has to say. Jabashiri snacks on a meatball sub offered up by Marito and explains that the pink-haired guy named Tatsuto followed Matakara after the fight. Matakara's from the Minato gang, and he took Tomoshibi into his home. Jabashiri doesn't think they should recruit somebody like Tomoshibi who seems to be involved with someone from Minato, but this just makes Marito consider recruiting Matakara as well. Jabashiri gets so angry that he bashes his head into a wall, and he reminds Marito that he will be his only successor. On his way to school, Tomoshibi finds that everyone is stunned to see that he was the one who punched Marito. Senya is impressed with how popular Tomoshibi is now. But Tomoshibi couldn't care less about being popular with all the guys since it doesn't do anything to get him closer to developing a plot. Senya wants to fight anyone for just looking at Tomoshibi, but Tomoshibi yells at him. This startles the crowd, which seems terrified of him, and Marito appears out of nowhere. Elsewhere, Greenhead tells Matakara that he should avoid Tomoshibi from now on, since he seems to have some kind of monkey on his back. Matakara actually reveals that he's planning to ask Tomoshibi to join Minato Kai, but his boys don't think their leader would ever allow that. Matakara reveals that Ken already wants to meet with Tomoshibi, and Zabu can't understand what Matakara sees in that kid. Matakara thinks that Tomoshibi's fist looks just like a honki's, but Zabu just wonders why his friend takes the old fairy tale so seriously. Later at school, Marito rides up on his llama to ask Matakara if he knows where Tomoshibi is, and he reveals that he plans to recruit Tomoshibi to Shiguma. In class, Tomoshibi yells at Senya for annoying him as always, and must apologize to everyone, who surely must think he is crazy. By now, it's clear that Tomoshibi still has a crush on Mahoro, but Senya reminds this simp that he beat up her brother. Tomoshibi's head is really in the clouds as he corrects Senya and explains that Marito was just testing his sister's new boyfriend. Senya is quick to point out that Tomoshibi started to run away at the first sight of Marito, but Tomoshibi explains that his legs just moved on their own. Just then, Marito's voice calls out to Tomoshibi, and Tomoshibi's legs move on their own again to get Tomoshibi out of there. Elsewhere, Mahoro tells her brother that she wants to always be with him. She wonders if he is even listening, but we see that the psychotic girl is actually just talking to a bear version of Marito. Tomoshibi arrives, pretending to see her. There was a complete coincidence, and he apologizes for what happened the day before. Even though Tomoshibi just ran for Marito, he tells Mahoro that he wants to face off against her brother one more time to earn his respect. Tomoshibi thinks this will impress her, but Mahoro shockingly explains that if he hurts her brother again, then she will end his life. Mahoro tells him to take back the rock he gave her, but he explains that it's a love forever stone. She doesn't care and just drops it. It shatters into a million pieces, and this jerk acts like it was an accident. Afterwards, Mahoro asks her brother to walk home with her, but he's having a fight dream against Tomoshibi, and he pinches his sister right in the face. This chick seriously has some screws loose in her brain, as she blames Tomoshibi for this. At home, Tomoshibi depressingly pieces together his sad-looking love, Forever Stone. Senya tries to cheer him up, but the kid is hopeless. The next day, Matakara invites Tomoshibi to join Minato Kai. He explains how impressed he was with his punch on Marito, but he's interrupted by Jabashiri. Sabu is furious to see the pink-haired dude, but Jabashiri uses his favorite weapon to attack him. Tomoshibi wishes this whole thing would just blow over, but that doesn't seem to be the case as Matakara goes to confront Jabashiri. Jabashiri has business with Tomoshibi, but Matakara states that he will have to go through him first. This actually works out perfectly for Jabashiri, as he explains that he has been waiting to slaughter Matakara for some time now. The two step outside, giving Tomoshibi immense relief, but Jabashiri tells him that he will be back for him. Outside, the two prepare to fight, and everyone cheers for battle. Senya tries to drag Tomoshibi to go watch, but he doesn't want to get mixed up and all that. Senya questions our boy's manhood, and he wonders if he's really just planning to leave his friend behind. This comment seems to affect us in more ways than one, as his stomach gargles and he must rush off to take care of business. The fight finally begins, and Matakara is amazed by Jabashiri's flexibility as he dodges all of his kicks. Just when Matakara thinks he will finally land one, Jabashiri simply dodges again. The crowd is extremely entertained, but Senya is left frustrated as he has to wait for our boy. The fight continues, as both guys seem evenly matched. Matakara clearly leans heavily on his kicks to attack, but Jabashiri more than holds his own. Matakara gets excited when he finally manages to land a kick right on the back of Jabashiri's head, but Jabashiri just uses the opportunity to knock Matakara down. Matakara just manages to stop him from landing a devastating blow, but Jabashiri prepares to use his trusty headbutt to end the fight. Matakara doesn't even try to avoid it and decides to literally take it head-on with a headbutt of his own. Their two heads collide, and the crowd goes silent in anticipation of what will happen next. The invisible Senya drags Tomoshibi to the fight just in time to see that Matakara had the more powerful headbutt. Jabashiri's out cold, and the crowd erupts with cheers. Senya is furious to have missed what seems to have been an awesome fight, and Tomoshibi just wonders what's wrong with Matakara. Matakara isn't moving an inch, and we see that it's because he's unconscious. When Matakara wakes up, he points out that Jabashiri's head is as hard as a rock. Tomoshibi compliments his old friend by saying that he didn't do so badly. But Matakara points out that it was nothing compared to Tomoshibi landing a punch on a Marito before Tomoshibi can leave. Matakara asks him one more time to join Minato Kai. Matakara explains that he has gotten stronger, so he really thinks that they have a real shot at becoming Honkai people together now. Tomoshibi remains silent, and Senya is shocked that these two kids were actually training to become Honkai people. Tomoshibi makes his decision and reminds Matakara that he is done with all that stuff. Matakara makes one last effort to convince Tomoshibi to meet with their leader, Ken, and explains that Ken is taking on Marito for the top spot. This proves to be the key to motivating our boy Tomoshibi, as he's intrigued by Ken wanting to fight Mahoro's brother. Tomoshibi goes to meet with Ken, and Senya is glad to learn that Tomoshibi wants the strength of becoming a Honkai and taking the top spot. Matakara reveals that Ken was held back 3 times, so he is a bit older than them, and Tomoshibi is shocked to hear that he is 21 years old. The giant Ken finally arrives, and Tomoshibi thinks about how he's like an old man. This guy has an intense presence, and Seni is amazed by how strong he seems. Matakara begins formally introducing Tomoshibi to Ken, but Tomoshibi just gets right to the point, and he tells Ken that he wants to go one round with him. Senya couldn't be happier to see the side of Tomoshibi, and Tomoshibi thinks about his thought process. If he can be an old guy who's on the same level as Mahoro's brother, then he won't have to hurt her brother to show her how strong he is. Tomoshibi gives himself a good pat on the back, as he's some kind of simp genius. Everyone prepares to watch Tomoshibi fight Ken, but they all think the kid is just crazy. Matakara pleads with Ken not to do this, but it's too late. Tomoshibi tells Senya that it's time, and Senya is just glad that Tomoshibi has finally discovered his true wish. Senya assumes that he finally wants to wish for more power, but Tomoshibi once again wishes to develop some plot for the first time. Immense power flows through his body once again, and Senya proclaims Bucchigiri. Tomoshibi's arm grows twice the size again, tearing his sleeve to pieces, and he lands an immense punch that sends Ken flying. Everyone is, of course, stunned, and Matakara realizes Tomoshibi really is the one. Our boy Tomoshibi strikes a victory pose, but Senya's just upset that all Tomoshibi thinks about is developing a plot. Tomoshibi doesn't think there's anything more important, but Senya points out that getting stronger is Tomoshibi looks like a lunatic as he fights with the invisible Senya, and the furious Ken sends him flying through the ceiling. Tomoshibi looks like he might not be alive anymore, and Ken just stares at the huge indentation that Tomoshibi's punch left behind. The other Monet Dokai members blame Matakara for bringing trouble, and they become terrified when it seems like Ken is becoming enraged. It turns out that he is actually laughing, and Ken writes that he couldn't be happier. At school, Tomoshibi is still feeling the repercussions of the fight, but Senya just wants to go another round with that guy. Tomoshibi gets real cocky after waiting 2 fights in a row, and points out that it's like he has no limits. Senya quickly brings him back to reality as he points out that he technically lost again. Just then, Marito's voice can be heard approaching. In typical Aura fashion, he prepares to jump out the window again, but Marito is one step ahead as he comes crashing through said window. Marito has finally caught him, and he asks Tomoshibi to join their team. Tomoshibi tries to explain that he would only be a burden if he joined, and he would respectfully like to decline. However, his sim brain takes over as Mahoro signals that she would love for him to join. She speaks to Tomoshibi's sim part without a single word, and he agrees to join Shiguma. Just then Matakara arrives. He's excited to reveal that Ken has agreed to let Tomoshibi join Minato Kai, but he is, of course, shocked to see him talking to Marito. Marito tells him that he's too late and that Tomoshibi has already chosen to join Shiguma. Matakara tries to remind Tomoshibi that they were supposed to become Honkai people together, but Marito reiterates that he just joined Shiguma. If Matakara wants Tomoshibi to join his group, then he will have to take him by force. Elsewhere, the dudes in white are terrified since they don't have enough money to meet their quota, and their leader knocked 3 teeth out of the last guy who failed him. The one they called their emperor explains that Marito's trying to take on the head of Minato Kai, and he decides to find a way to make them settle it. He thinks that's a great idea, and his subordinates wonder who this crazy guy is talking to. We learned that the Minato Kai and Aiki Union once fought the deadliest, most famous battle for the top spot at Atuzu High. Then the 43rd leader of Minato Kai, named Duman, absolutely destroyed Aiki Union's boss with one blow. Just when Aiki Union's fate seemed to be sealed, Marito appeared. With Marito as the leader, Aiki Union was rebranded as Shiguma Squad, and it immediately regained its former glory. This explanation is given by Tatsu, and he is enthusiastic about Shiguma's plans to take the top spot. Senya is on board, but Tomoshibi is completely disinterested. He joined for all the wrong reasons and would rather not waste his youth fighting. Marito arrives to take him somewhere, but when Tomoshibi wonders where they are going, he is met by a really ugly face from Jabashiri. Marito receives a call as all preparations are ready, and Jabashiri tells Tomoshibi not to let the situation go to his head. Marito reveals that they are going to Tomoshibi's welcoming party, and they will be spoiling him with debauchery. Tomoshibi thinks about what kind of debauchery, but he reveals that he is the type that can only share his heart with one girl. Just then, they find some guys in white robbing some poor kid, as they desperately need to reach their quota. Marito breaks it up, and Tomoshibi recognizes them as the ones who robbed him. They are the Ing boys, and their group's leader is Shindo, a guy who was exiled from Manado Kai. The Ing boys pull out some weapons, and Tomoshibi realizes how serious this is, as those blades could end someone's life. The guys fear that they have no other choice since their emperor will take their lives if they don't do as he says. Marito instantly takes these fools out and tells them to send a message to Shindo. The message is to not get too carried away. Senya is amazed by Marito, and Jabashiri points out that wasn't even the tiniest bit of his strength elsewhere. Mahoro calls her brother and invites him to some places, but eventually realizes that she was just leaving a message. Matakara tries to talk to her about Tomoshibi, but she doesn't even acknowledge his existence. Matakara grabs her and tells her that he won't let go until she talks to him. Mahoro gets really serious and tells him to take his dirty hands off of her, but he can't hear her. Mahoro makes him hear her with a crazy loud scream, and she runs off while calling him a gross blockhead. At Tomoshibi's welcoming party, Marito tells everyone that Tomoshibi has a powerful punch, but Tomoshibi just wonders where all the girls are. Marito then announces the start of their welcoming party tradition game called Look That Away. The winner will get a 1-year supply of Hot Pockets. Marito has everyone partying up, and the crazy game starts. Tomoshibi, as stunned as this crazy game seems to just be rock, paper, scissors, and a violent twist. Senya points out that the debauchery he spoke of is actually depunchery. Marito declares that everyone who turned must sit, and he wonders if Tomoshibi has figured out the rules. It's very simple, as long as they don't lose that rock, paper, and scissors. The game continues, and these dudes just keep punching each other in the face. Eventually, there are only a couple guys left standing, and Marito wonders if Tomoshibi is ready to give it a try. Tomoshibi would rather just observe, but Marito wants him to show off his crazy, strong punch. Tomoshibi is up, and Marito can't wait to face off against him in the final round. Tomoshibi tells Senya to merge with him, but Senya refuses. He would like to help, but he doesn't think Tomoshibi would really be satisfied if he only won because of him. Jabashiri is glad to finally get his shot at taking out Tomoshibi, but a guy named Oda wants to go first. Everyone whispers about this guy because he is the leader of the special attack unit, and Tomoshibi's really unlucky to have to go against him. Tomoshibi wonders if this is the end of his life, and he begins to regret joining Shiguma. Senya finally agrees to help, but Oda wonders who Tomoshibi is talking to. Tatsuto arrives to be the referee, and Tomoshibi realizes that if he doesn't win at rock, paper, scissors, Oda will probably kill him with his punch. Tatsuto begins the match, but the first match is a tie. Tomoshibi loses the second one, so he tells Senya that he is counting on him. Tomoshibi is terrified as Oda prepares his attack, but Senya makes Tomoshibi take the punch right to the face. Oda's hand is injured, causing him to pull back, and everyone wonders what kind of crazy, strong skull Tomoshibi has. This is the first time anyone other than Marito has taken a punch from Oda. The force of Oda's punch can even smash concrete, so everyone is left in awe as they wonder how Tomoshibi's skull could be strong enough to withstand it. Tomoshibi's announced the winner, and Senya celebrates Bucchigiri style. Oda tells Tatsu that he will be going to the restroom, and we see that his fist is all messed up. Jabashiri is next up, and he has been waiting for this very moment. Tomoshibi doesn't think his skull can take any more, but the match is already about to begin. Tatsuto starts the match, and Tomoshibi manages to win. He doesn't even want to win, so he decides to throw a weak punch. Jabashiri thinks about how Tomoshibi can't really be that strong, but he's surprised by the strange look on his face. Tomoshibi turns out to just be looking at some girls and ends up landing the weakest looking punch. Tatsuto is completely stunned and points out that Tomoshibi just used a legendary technique, one of the 7 deadly blows passed on by an ancient Chinese fighter. When a fighter releases all the energy in their body, the attack uses centrifugal force to strike sharply with all the momentum of a heavy whip. With a strange turn of bad luck, Tatsuto announces that Tomoshibi is the winner, and Marito quickly arrives to face him. Senya is hyped about it, so Tomoshibi tells him to quiet down and apologizes when Marito thinks he was talking to him. This gets Marito even more ready to fight, and Tomoshibi realizes that his life will now end. Tomoshibi doesn't think his skull will survive, but Senya tells our boy not to give up. Marito then explains why he has taken a liking to Tomoshibi, and it's because he was able to feel his honkai when he punched him. Tatsuto starts to match, and the super intense Marito prepares to show rock, paper, or scissors. However, just then, Tomoshibi's stomach starts acting up, and he's allowed to go handle it. Unfortunately, when he arrives at the bathroom, he finds an unconscious Oda. Marito is furious and demands that the person who did this reveal themselves. A Monado Kai sleeve was found next to Oda, so the others want to get revenge. However, Marito knows that this isn't domain style. Jabashiri is sure that one of the Monado Kai did it. But Marito points out that nobody from that gang wouldn't be able to do this much damage to Oda afterwards. Tatsuto explains the history between Oda and Marito. When they first met in middle school, they started calling themselves the God Kings, and they always fought side by side. They are war buddies, and the only person in all of Honkai City who can defeat Oda is Dolmen. However, Marito knows better than anyone that Dolmen wouldn't pull shady stuff like what happened to Oda. Marito now has a decision to make. Does he avenge his comrade or trust that his arch-rival wouldn't do something like this? Senya admires their close friendship, but Tomoshibi doesn't want to hear about it. Afterwards, Tomoshibi finds Mahoro at his house restaurant, and his mom is doing her best to eavesdrop without being noticed. Mahoro thanks him for joining Shiguma for her, and Tomoshibi explains that his head got smacked real bad because of it. He considers quitting, but this crazy chick smacks him right across the face. Mahoro points out that things haven't even started yet, and she is sure that her brother is going to ask Tomoshibi to take over for him in Shiguma. Mahoro wants him to defeat her brother, and she tells him to do it for her. This little witch do her heart move, which once again pierces our boy's soul, but Senya doesn't think it's anything special. As Mahoro leaves, Tomoshibi yells with determination that he will go for it, and his mom just wonders how far he got with the girl. Mahoro thinks about how once Marito graduates from Shikuma, all his attention will go to her. That night, Tomoshibi does some serious shadowboxing and wonders how he can get his merge rate up with Senya. Senya is surprised by this kind of talk, but Tomoshibi explains that he has to become Marito's successor. In order to do that, they will have to merge. Senya couldn't be happier since Tomoshibi's turning into a fine man. Senya has our boy play the flute, but Tomoshibi wonders if it's really going to improve their merge rate. Senya explains that they are harmonizing, and he notices that the strange symbol on Tomoshibi's back is becoming more defined. Tomoshibi wonders what incentive Senya has for merging, but he just says that it's a natural instinct. Elsewhere, Jabashiri runs into some Monado Kai guys, and Tatsuto reminds him that it will be trouble if they take them down. Now Jabashiri listens to his friend even though he's clearly enraged. But the Monado Kai guys call them spineless. This trigger, Jabashiri confronts them about ambushing Oda and starts beating them up when they act clueless. Tatsuto manages to pull them away, but Jabashiri vows to get vengeance for Oda. These Monado guys have the worst luck, since once Jabashiri leaves, the Ang guys arrive to take them out. Their leader seems very pleased with himself, as he is plotting something devious. The next day, during a sad excuse for gym class, students are told to pair up and stretch. Tomoshibi pairs up with Matakara, so he gets his back cracked, and Matakara reminds him that they always used to be partners in elementary school. Tomoshibi has another memory from their pleasant childhood, but something else is clearly bothering him, and he tells Matakara that he doesn't remember. Tomoshibi does his best to crack Matakara's back, and Matakara wonders what Mahoro told him. Tomoshibi explains that she told him that he has to become Marito's successor, but he collapses under the weight of his much bigger friend. Just then, Matakara is informed that the Shiguma took out 2 of their guys from Minato Kai. Matakara arrives to find that his fellow Minato members have been tied to trees. Greenhead is furious, as he is certain that the Shiguma are the only ones who would do this, and he refuses to let them get away with it. A trio of Minato members find some Shiguma guys and instantly begin a fight, and we see that the real culprits watch from a distance. Afterwards, Marito and the other Shiguma arrive to find that the Minato have beaten up their boys. Marito finds a picture of him and Oda, and it states that Marito is next. At the Minato Kai base, Matakara explains to Domain that their 2 members, who were tied to the trees, had to be taken to the hospital as their ribs were broken. Just then, the guards can be heard getting beat up, and Marito arrives. Marito explains that he has a debt to repay and demands that Domain show himself hear them loud and clear. So he appears to confront Marito. Marito instantly attacks, but Matakara stops him. Marito sends him flying, and Matakara just asks that he tell them what the problem is. Jabashiri thinks they should already know, but Broccoli Head points out that they were the ones that ganged up on their guys. Jabashiri tells them what they did, but no one really knows what's going on. Things get even more tense, but Matakara tells his boys to calm down. Marito shows them the armband that they found, but Matakara explains that no one from Minato Kai would do something so cowardly. Marito is still skeptical, so he says that if it wasn't them, then they need to bring the real culprits to the Colosseum tomorrow. If they don't, then Marito will declare war. Marito tells Kaneshiro that they will settle things once and for all and leave. The tense moment ends, but the real trouble is just about to begin. At school, Senya's glad to see Tomoshibi taking his training seriously. Of course, Tomoshibi thinks about Mahoro and promises to defeat her brother for her. However, Tomoshibi remembers how she threatened to end his life if he hurt her brother. This means Tomoshibi must defeat Marito, but he can't leave a mark on his face. Tomoshibi doesn't think it makes much sense, but Senya reminds him that he could just punch the guy right in the gut. Tomoshibi goes right back to shadowboxing as he ignores everyone and eventually arrives at the Shiguma base. The others don't share his enthusiasm, and Tatsuto catches our boy up on the wall. Everyone is getting riled up to destroy Minato Kai, but Tatsuto knows that it will only be a battle without honor or humanity. Revenge will only lead to more revenge, and they will try to wash blood away with more blood. Tomoshibi is seemingly at a loss, but Senya couldn't be more excited. Marito seems very focused, and it's because he will finally get to settle his beef with Kaneshiro. Back with Matakara, his buddies notice that he didn't seem interested in a battle. Matakara explains that Minato Kai has always been about man-to-man combat and about pursuing strength. He stares at his brother's uniform and thinks back to when his brother was taken away to juvie. His brother reminded him that Hankai people never run away and encouraged him to keep working hard to become a Hankai person. Matakara is determined to keep his promise to his brother and to the Minato Kai that he cared about so much. His brother was Minato Kai's legendary 42nd leader, and they all look up to him. Just then, Matakara leaves suddenly and explains that he needs to go do something. Goldilocks notices that Sabu hasn't taken his jacket off in a while, but now that he has, his armband is missing. Sabu explains that some crows took it away while he was drying it, but Goldilocks seems suspicious. He isn't too smart, however, and just attacks some nearby crows. A look into the past shows that Sabu was found by a member of Ing. His name was Shindo, and Sabu recognized him as the one that Ing referred to as the Emperor. This guy was banished from Minato 6 months ago, but Sabu pointed out that this guy is still acting tough. Shindo wanted to be friends, but Sabu refused and called him a small fry. Sabu's rude gesture caught Shindo's to lost it, and he beat Sabu relentlessly. Shindo didn't take his insults lightly, so he took Sabu's armband and pointed out that he just got beat up by a small fry. Sabu can hardly live with the embarrassment now and refuses to tell anyone. Elsewhere, Senya is excited to get home so Tomoshibi can do more training. Tomoshibi points out that training won't be necessary anymore since Marito and Kaneshiro will be fighting each other. Senya isn't following, so Tomoshibi explains it to his genie-like friend. If Marito wins, then he will have achieved all he has ever desired. Our boy has a crazy imagination, as he thinks Marito would just leave Shiguma to him, and Tomoshibi imagines himself telling his future brother-in-law that he can count on him. On the other hand, if Kaneshiro were to win, then Marito would have no choice but to leave Shiguma to him. Mahoro will fall into despair, and Tomoshibi will just have to be there to console her. Tomoshibi gets home and finds that Matakara has been waiting for him. Matakara wonders if Tomoshibi's planning to fight in the upcoming war, but Tomoshibi just says it will depend on the situation. Matakara pleads with Tomoshibi to stop Marito and explains that none of the Minato guys would ambush someone like they're being accused of. He is sure that the Shiguma guys wouldn't either, and he has a real bad feeling about all of this. Matakara points out that fighting like this isn't what Hankai people do, but Tomoshibi says that it's none of his business. Matakara has faith that Tomoshibi can stop the war, but Tomoshibi just gets frustrated. He tells Matakara to stop talking like a little kid, and suddenly he can tell that he gets really worked up when Matakara is around. Matakara explains that Tomoshibi always stayed by his side and thinks back to their childhood. Tomoshibi once showed him one of his friendship stones and used it to stamp his body. This was the best friend stone Tomoshibi gave him, and they both agreed to become Hankai people together. Matakara declares that he still wants them to become Hankai people together, but something is clearly holding Tomoshibi back. He demands that Matakara leave and tells him that all that is ancient history. Senya wonders what happened between him and his old best friend, as he can tell that something big happened. Tomoshibi tells him to shut up, but he just ends up hitting himself in the head. Matakara returns home with his friendship stone and counts the days until his brother returns home. He has no idea what to do and wishes that his brother would hurry. The next day, the crazy Mahoro eats with her bear brother, and Tomoshibi joins her. Tomoshibi is sure that Marito will take the top spot today, and he will ask Tomoshibi, Marito's trusted companion, to take over. Shiguma. Mahoro has turned into a real jerk as she realizes that once Marito wins and graduates, she won't need Tomoshibi anymore. Tomoshibi wonders what she means, but they are interrupted by Matakara. Tomoshibi says that he doesn't want to talk, but Matakara actually wants to speak with Mahoro. She agrees to go since it's about Marito, but Tomoshibi tries to warn her about the Minato guys. Tomoshibi fears that Matakara might be asking her out, and Senya doesn't help ease his concern by saying that Matakara is a lot manlier than him. Mahoro tells Matakara to get to the point, so he just comes out and asks her to stop the war. She's insulted by the request, but Matakara warns that both sides are acting bloodthirsty. At this rate, they might even end each other's lives, so she should be worried about Marito. Mahoro doesn't think Marito would listen to her anyway, so Matakara asked her to persuade Tomoshibi to do it instead. Mahoro doesn't think Tomoshibi could handle such a task, but Matakara is certain that he can. Matakara stops her from leaving, just like last time, so she tells him to get his dirty hands off of her. She prepares to scream again, but this time he stops her. Tomoshibi thinks they are hugging and passes out. Matakara is determined to keep his promise to his brother and protect Minado Kai, but he lets her go in case she can't breathe. Mahoro was surprised to hear that Matakara has a brother, and he explained that he should be able to see him soon. Afterward, Mahoro walks right up to our boy and tells him to go make her brother stop the war. This manipulative chick uses her heart to move, and our boy is helpless against it. Moments later, Tomoshibi realizes that he is almost out of time. He chickens out of asking Marito to stop the war and ends up telling him that it seems like it will be fun. Tomoshibi thinks about how he can't go through with it, and Marito decides to try and feed him. Tomoshibi is still pretty spineless at this point in the anime and downs the piping hot burrito in one bite. Marito then explains that he eats and eats, but his hunger is never satisfied. At the Minato base, the bloodthirsty group vows to end. All Shiguma members live, but Sabu is still struggling with his secret. Matakara sees that time is up, and Kinishiro arrives. Matakara tries to tell him that Tomoshibi is convincing Marito to stop the war as they speak, but Kinishiro has already decided. He uses writing as always and declares that it's time to settle things. Everyone heads out for battle, but Sabu notices that Matakara stayed behind. The guilt has overwhelmed him, so Sabu tells Matakara that he has something to say. Elsewhere, Tomoshibi sulks as he couldn't find the courage to ask Marito, and he is sure that Mahoro will be done with him. Senya rouses him up and reminds Tomoshibi that Mahoro and Matakara really seem to hit it off. Senya straightens him up. Tomoshibi lands right in front of Shindo. Shindo insults him a bunch while telling Tomoshibi to go home. Tomoshibi strikes back by calling him Four Eyes. Tomoshibi is under a lot of pressure, and he lets out his frustration on this guy. Back at the Minato base, Sabu reveals that Shindo was actually the one who took down Oda. Shindo set all this up, but Sabu takes all the blame. Matakara is just glad that he told him and declares that he will be leaving. He doubts that Marito will believe the truth, so he shockingly reveals that he will go straight to Shindo instead. Back with Tomoshibi, he is taking an absolute beating from Shindo. Senya doesn't like how this guy is using a weapon, so he demands that Tomoshibi show him the results of their training. Tomoshibi is on board and once again wishes to develop a plot for the first time. Senya declares Buchigiri as they merge together, but Shindo is certain that he can still win. He is shocked, however, when his weapon has no effect and Tomoshibi lands a powerful punch. Our boys are done, as he can now throw a second punch. Our heroes celebrate their victory, and Senya points out that their merge rate is going up because of his training. Shindo is really messed up with a serious dent in his face, and he remembers this pain he feels. Our boys are stunned when Shindo gets up, but Senya is more terrified. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about the fourth part of Buchigiri by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.